Badlands. Explain those Badlands. That's a hell of a name.
Following stream has been approved for truth seekers by the DEFCON Truth Alliance.
If the opinion that's coming out needs people to be silenced, it's a psyop. There are psychological operations in play.
So if you can't question it, if you're supposed to just go along, it's a psyop.
Yeah, and if people have to be silenced or publicly shamed because of their information, and they're not telling people the sky's falling, they're not saying crazy shit. Mm-hmm. They're just saying basic stuff, and they need to be silenced. That is a psyop.
There's a war out there, old friend. A world war. And it's not about who's got the most bullets. It's about who controls the information. What we see and hear, how we work, what we think. It's all about the information.
We have an Insurrection Act for a reason.
Bad guy can't win. It's a morality tale.
This is warfare. This is warfare.
The eyes see and the ears hear, the mind believes.
This is warfare. This is warfare. Goodbye. You can run, but you can't hide.
It's gotta be biblical.
One by one, one by one, say goodbye. One by one, say goodbye. One by one, say goodbye. You can run, but this is fire. This is warfare. This is warfare. This is warfare. This is warfare.
Good times, great oldies. How you doing, brother?
Good, brother. How you doing, man? Doing well over here.
I'm doing solid. My math wasn't mathing today.
I figured. I mean, you were 10 minutes late.
I did an amazing show with Kurt and Kristen from
Awesome.
from Pet Club. Recorded it this morning and I aired it tonight. And I was like, okay, we're good. The time's here. So if I start it at 6:20 my time, it ends right at 7:30 for DEFCON. But then I forgot that I included a minute and a half thumbnail at the front end and a minute and a half thumbnail at the back end. So that put me 3 minutes. I was like, damn. I was like, I need more fingers and toes, man. I need more fingers and toes. Anyways, folks, this show is live. It's February 17th, 2026. Myself, Alpha from the AlphaWarrior.tv, my brother Josh from Real Joshua Reid and RedPills.tv. February 17th.
Oh, it's the 17th. Oh,
The
man, I didn't even notice.
17th. Yo,
That number, that letter is just coming up a lot lately, isn't it? 17.
you know, almost like it has something to do with the show tonight. You know, just a little bit. So here's the good news, folks, and here's the bad news. The bad news is I had a folder set up for tonight's show that I put some work into, and I was pumped. And I can't find that folder anywhere on my computer. The good news is we're dealing with the human encyclopedia over here. So I do remember the things and the majority of the stuff in this folder I wanted to talk about. And during the opening trailer that we have for the show, I ran and grabbed some of that stuff. And I know Josh grabbed one of the things I want to look for in the private chat. One of the things I want to talk about, aside from the deltas from today being February 17th, I've seen some very good people that I like. And I've seen some bad people, all having the conversation surrounding Q is very pronounced right now on mainstream media, alt media. Shout out to Counterinsurgent, just gifted 5 subscriptions. Thank you. We get those in. If you're new to the show, we do those as soon as we see them because we know they disappear. And I actually think they did it twice. And then the Rumble rant, we'll read that at the end of the show, just to let the new viewers know. But I wanted to have a conversation on, is mainstream media acknowledging Q a trap? Or is it something good? Josh doesn't know my opinion. I don't know his opinion. Shout out Breadmaker62, gifting 5 subscriptions. Hope you're feeling well, Breadmaker. So that is one of the main conversations I want to have tonight. And like I said, we got some videos, old stuff and new stuff to bring into that conversation. And then I do want to talk about some things with today's deltas and some pictures circulating. And as I understand it, there was somebody that passed away today that was close to President Trump, at least a while back. There's some photos with him. I think that'll make for an interesting conversation. So there's some things that I got planned for tonight. And then obviously we'll keep track of what good old Dan Scavino and Trump are posting, because when we go live, they like to drop some things sometimes, I think, to see if we're paying attention. Other than that, Josh, what do you got? And then we'll get to these commercials and then we'll get this party started.
Well, you know, I've never prepared for one show in my life. I just kind of come in here and wing it every time. So I'm joking, but
No, he's not. No, he's not.
Listen, we can talk about a plethora of information that is going on right now. Epstein, obviously, the big topic. We're going to talk a little bit about what we know about Epstein, some things that we know are coming about. There's a few things that we talked about on other shows that we do, timelines, etc. Talking about summertime. I'm actually going to show a clip pertaining to 2020 election fraud. That's going to have a lot to do with that. Lots of calls for accountability because of the Epstein files, but I think we're going to get into that a little bit because I think that Donald Trump is moving forth with the same ideas that he had last year, that this has to be indirectly done by the people because, you know, this country was founded 250 years ago through the Declaration of Independence on July 4th, 1776. And it didn't come about because a few very wealthy people decided that it was time to separate from King George and the Bank of England. It came about because those same people, groups of people, went about and talked to other people throughout the 13 colonies and acquired masses of people who all agreed that their voice needed to be heard, their concerns needed to be heard, and that they were demanding certain things at that point in time. And that culminated into the American Revolution, of which a government was formed for the people, of the people, and by the people, of which the people's voices in the original creation of our country actually mattered. And what do I mean by that? A representative, the whole idea of a representative form of government, a representative represents a government, a small little population. Reason being, in the early years of our country, the population was spread out. It wasn't concentrated into large cities. Even in large cities, things were very spread out. You had farmers who were the primary landowners and the ones that attributed to the GDP that fed the people. These were the people that the politicians actually wanted to work with and wanted to hear from. And so you had representatives that represented the interest of the landowners, of the farmers, of the business owners. And the reason being is because when you have a farm that's 150 miles or 50 miles outside of the nearest town, you can't get into the town every day to find out what's going on in the world or represent yourself in the government. And so you'd have a representative that would come out and he would meet with you, and he'd meet with other families and business owners and landowners, and he'd hear your concerns, and he would take them to Congress and deliberate for you. Well, over the course of the last 250 years, Americans have lost that power, the power of their voice. More specifically, in the early 1900s, when the Senate kind of transitioned away from the states, the state assembly's voice, and kind of moved towards the people voting for the Senate, as well as when the lobby was created and you had business interest and private and special interest that came in and began to overwhelm politicians with gifts and money that drowned out the voices of the people. So right now, I want people to kind of visualize this. We have a fourth branch of government, and that fourth branch of government is an uneven distribution between the voices of the people and the voices of the lobby, of foreign interest, of private interest, of special interest, of money. And for the longest time, that money has spoken louder than the people. And what Trump has said in 2016, what he said in 2020, was that he was there to give the power back to the people. What is that power? That power is the power of your voice. That power is you guys, all of us coming together in a common accord and demanding certain things. So when we look at what happened over the last year with the Epstein files in particular, you remember, Alpha and I called this back in March. This was a psyop when they came out with the fake influencers with their fake binders and like Epstein files. None of these guys had ever reported on the Epstein files before in their life. We're like, what the hell is going on? Well, it was setting the tone and the narrative for what was about to come next. You have Pam Bondi said, I just watched a disgusting video of the Epstein files of horrific evil and crimes. And then 2 weeks later, she's saying, oh, I don't have any Epstein files. There is no list. And we're like, what's going on? And then Donald Trump's like, oh, just forget about Epstein. He's old news. Don't even worry about it. But Elon Musk is like, Trump's in the Epstein files. The left goes absolutely crazy. The left starts investigating and researching. The left starts bringing this out. The mainstream media jumps on board. Well, it was a bait and trap type of situation because prior to, I would even say 2024, the majority of the people in the United States of America had no clue who Jeffrey Epstein was. If this stuff came out in 2019, the average American household had no clue who Jeffrey Epstein was. So by going out there and convicting him or doing any of these things, it didn't matter. But now, after that psyop of 2025, it matters because it's mainstream news and people can't ignore it now that it's set into motion. So with that, Trump is continuing that same psyop. He is pushing the American public to demand accountability through their representatives, to get the representatives to push for more legislation, to release more classified documents and more redacted names, to bring out the truth and have prosecutions being brought about on all of this. Because if he did it, well, then what good are we? Then the next time that we get a president that no longer cares about the American public, the power goes right back to centralization. But we have to learn how to utilize our power as American citizens. And I think that that's a lot about what this last year was and what this is about right now. That he's playing this card like, forget about the Epstein stuff. Oh, I'm exonerated by it, all this. simply because he wants you to get angry, to get pissed off. He wants you to wake up. He wants you to go out there and demand accountability. He wants you to call your representatives, call your senators and say, listen, mofos, we want accountability. You need to get John Ratcliffe to release those classified documents. You need to produce a bill declassifying it all and getting it all released, because we want to know what's in those documents. And then we want to see prosecutions that come about from it. This is what I believe that the Trump administration is actually aligning towards, that they are kind of acting as a passive surrogate, waiting for the American people to begin demanding accountability. And don't get me wrong, we have a lot of people out there demanding accountability, right? But how extensive is that really? Do you have the everyday normies? Do you have, the collaboration, the precipice moment to where everybody is just so outraged by what they're learning that there is no more ignoring it? We're not at that point yet, but we are coming up to it fast. And I think that there's a few moves right now that are actually going to bring that about. So at least in my perspective, the reason we haven't seen accountability yet is simply because of this, but also timing, strategy, and tactics.
100%. You're going to make people think they're all lying, man. That this is flowing too well. They scripted this, because your opening monologue right there was perfect to set us up where we're going. But before we do that, again, shout out Lisa 888 gifted 5 subscriptions. Again, thank you to Breadmaker gifted 5, and shout out to Counterinsurgent, who gifted another 5 subscriptions. So that's 3 gifts of 5 subscriptions, or a total of 15, because I can do that kind of math for Badlands Media. So thank you guys for that support. And again, we will be reading the Rumble rants, the YouTube super chats, and the Badlands boost. We will be covering those at the end of the show. So with that, let's get into some of our sponsors for tonight. And then I got a little old video to help get this conversation kicked off. So first on deck, you guys, Native Path. There it goes. There's my folder. I want to take a second to talk about Native Path collagen. First of all, collagen isn't just about nails or skin. As we get older, our bodies stop producing as much of this critical protein starting in our late 20s, as a matter of fact. And that's when joints can start aching, recovery slows down, and everything just feels harder. This specific collagen is grass-fed, pasture-raised, and designed to support joints, bones, mobility, skin, hair, all the stuff we tend to lose with age. No weird taste, no complicated routine, just add it to your coffee or smoothie and done. It's just part of your daily routine. Right now, get a special bundle deal at a fraction of the retail price plus free shipping. This offer is only available at getnativepath.com/Badlands. That's GetNativePath.com/Badlands. If you've been thinking about supporting your body instead of just pushing through the aches, go check it out. The link is in the show notes and the description down below. That site again is getnativepath.com/Badlands. I'm sure one of our great moderators will drop that link for you guys in the chat. And then our next one, another goodie. Let me bring this graphic up on the screen for everybody. We have it, Patriot Protect. Today, it's scarily easy for criminals, scammers, or anyone with bad intentions to find your personal information online. Your home address, phone number, workplace, even your family members' names are exposed with just a few clicks. When this much information is public, scams aren't random. Hundreds of people search sites, and data brokers compile profiles linking your name, address, phone number, relatives, and online behavior. Scammers use these profiles to decide who to target and how to approach them. That's how identity fraud starts, long before the damage shows up. Patriot Protect removes your personal data from the internet, wiping it from Google and every major website where bad actors search for targets. Patriot Protect finds and deletes your personal information from 240 plus people search engines and data brokers. Once your profiles are eliminated, their search and destroy protocol runs continuous monitoring so every new exposure is detected and wiped immediately. It's the peace of mind of having your own security team, all for about the cost of keeping your porch lights on. If you want to take control of your personal information and reduce your exposure, go to patriot-protect.com/DEFCON and use the code Badlands for 15% off all Patriot Protect plans. That's patriot-protect.com/DEFCON, and make sure you use promo code Badlands to get that 15% off. And you'll see both of those links and codes right below me and Josh. So
All right. Before you play that clip, let me play this clip. It's a really short one, but it explains from the boards, if anybody remembers the boards, combat tactics, Mr. Ryan. Ready?
What happened?
Combat tactics, Mr. Ryan. By turning into the torpedo, the captain closed the distance before it could arm itself.
So that's it?
Not quite. Right now, Captain Tupolev is removing the safety features on all his weapons. He won't make the same mistake twice.
All right. Combat tactics, Mr. Ryan. Now, I want people to think about this for a second because the ongoing theory right now of accountability is this. We are coming into the primaries. You have incumbents, Democrats and Republicans, that are going to be running for re-election because we are in the election year. Right now, the Trump White House is being meant to be freaking out about the midterms. What are we going to do? What are we going to do? What's our strategy? Oh my God. But see, there is a strategy at play, and I don't think people are kind of seeing what it is. But John Solomon today actually gave a hint pertaining to this specific strategy. Now, if you didn't listen to John Solomon earlier today when he was on Dan Bongino, he said something really interesting. He said that from what I gather, Donald Trump is going to disclose, release, declassify new evidence and information to urge Senate to push the SAVE Act. What this information is going to do is it's going to show that Christopher Wray, the head of CISA, right? That Krebs were complicit in covering up knowledge that they had of foreign adversaries and foreign friends who helped steal the 2020 election. Okay? And he said, John Solomon said, I bet you see this information come out around mid-summer. Now, why is that so important? Because right after the primaries, now we have their candidates set. They're out in their regions. They're talking to their constituents. They're having their town hall meetings. They're doing their debates. We're getting ready for the election. Let's just say that information, as well as right now Representative Mace and others in Congress, are urging John Ratcliffe of the CIA to release the millions of documents from Epstein that they have. What did we find out? Epstein was working for all different intelligence agencies, MI6, CIA, Mossad, the GRU, MSS, exactly what I've been saying for freaking years, that he's a freelance on the intelligence circuit, that the CIA has files on him. And there's also 3 million other files out of the 6 million. 3 million were released, 3 million are still redacted and classified. And from what I gather from that, going back to Donald Trump's True Social post the other day, was that he said the Democrats are implicated in the Epstein files along with their donors in these atrocities. What does that mean? Because I haven't seen any of the Democrats' names in there. He must know something that we don't know. So imagine that Representative Mace goes out there, they produce another bill towards that intelligence agency and say, hey, you have to release your evidence and information and declassify it and put it out to the world. And let's just say that all of that comes about in midsummer. That is like running into the torpedo of the midterms and that it's disengaging before it has time to blow up. That is combat tactics. That is when you release that information, because what happens when certain congressmen, Republican and Democrat, are implicated by the Epstein files. There's donors that are implicated in 2020 voter theft and fraud. There's countries and associations and contacts that are associated with certain politicians, and that comes about July and August of 2026. Now those candidates, those parties have to replace those candidates. And guess what? You're already too late by that point in time, that they're not going to win that election, at least with that incumbent. This is what we are set up for right now.
let me add a few more variables to that scenario, because you've absolutely nailed this grand slam right here. What else are people frustrated with right now? I had a conversation with a very smart, important person today, and he said, Trump just ain't pushing the primaries and midterms like he's done before.
Nope, he's not.
I said, he's not. I said, as a matter of fact, I have found myself saying, like, why aren't you pushing the midterms and primaries? Yeah, you're talking about we're going to have some big rally in August or September. That's a long time from now, man. That's a long time from now. If you guys remember, remember what his endorsements look like back in the day. Right now, he drops them on Truth and is just like, meh, right?
He spams them. 20 of them.
Yeah, here you go. Yeah, here you go. You guys all donated to my campaign. Let me throw you on my Truth Social, right? So if we understand how important midterms are, why isn't the boss pushing it the way we understand it? And at the same time, people are pissed. No one's arrested. There's no accountability. Look at everything that's coming out. And here's the question. What all is actually coming out? Like you said, Josh, have any of us seen evidence of atrocities yet? The answer to that's no. So all this is happening, and it brings up the conversation of, does Trump know something and have something in his back pocket? And I think you articulated very well what this is going to look like. So why allow people to get frustrated with elections right now? Why, allow people to start getting very stressed out on this SAVE Act? John Thune doesn't want to come and pull out the standing filibuster. We got Susan Collins, and I just want to add, you heard it here with me and Josh when I said, y'all might not like Susan Collins, but she's going to secure her pathway to keep that Senate position because it's an important one that we can't afford to lose, and all of a sudden she comes out as number 50. I don't know, Josh, maybe we're just really good at guessing, right? Mm-hmm. But all this is playing out. Why? And it's everybody's tensions are here. I think President Trump is allowing the frustration to build up. I think he's allowing these rug pulls to happen. Everybody's happy. The Q people that want to abuse Q for their own vindication are like a bunch of seals. It's art, right? But they can't tell you why. And then all of a sudden, boom, there goes one rug pull, right? Oh, shit, panic. And then, boom, there goes another rug pull. And all of a sudden, it's like, art. Well, that's supposed to happen. That's the plan. That's the plan, everybody. And then you ask them, what's the plan? Well, if you know, you know. Okay, thanks. Now I know the plan. and then
go watch my videos.
Go watch my videos. Learn how to research. Don't ask me what the plan is. Go do your research. And then something good happens, right? There's a delta, and then it's right back to right? Oh, this is good. We're happy again. And then there's a rug pull, and then well, that was supposed to happen. Well, why? Because trust the plan. What's the plan? Well, if you know, you know. Trust my. And it's this cycle, and it's this cycle, and it's this cycle, right? Over and over and over. Meanwhile, people are starting to be like, I don't think these people know what the fuck's going on. I think these people have been relying on date fagging and lines and all this stuff, but
moving the goalpost and just utilizing the boards that they are some oracle that tells the future.
But I don't think they really know what's going on.
I don't think so either. That's why we have this show.
That's why we have DEFCON. And you know what? You know who does know what's going on? President Trump. And that's why it's not just about listening to what he says. It's watch what he does. Watch who he builds relationships with and watch who he severs relationships with. Watch who he says, oh, they're a great person, but don't do shit for them. And who he doesn't say is a great person, but then he's making, $3 trillion deals and $3 billion deals with arms with people in the Middle East that were, well, hold on, but aren't they an adversary? This is the stuff we need to be paying attention, because then if you look at dates and you look at deltas and you look at Q posts, and you can see, which is something that I really admire about you, Josh, you've done a good job of making this very solid. What's the context? How does it apply to what's going on right now? And what does this paint the picture for what's coming? Because that's what's important right now.
Yeah, contextual reference frames.
Yeah, if you're watching this show, it's either because you want to say Q is not real and I'm going to wait for these guys to make a mistake so I can exploit it, or you're watching this show because you're someone that does subscribe to the idea. You realize that there is a very important operation that's at play, but you want to understand it. We all do. right? And that's what me and Josh do. We use our experiences and we use our studies, we use our sources and people that help us, and we try to use that to build an analysis and assessment of what's coming. And that's why I want to have this conversation, and I wanted to build that foundation, because I think what Trump is doing is he's getting the court of public opinion, which I think is the most powerful weapon in information war, to be so frustrated. There is a strong likelihood that they don't pass the SAVE Act. I'm just saying a scenario. I'm not saying that's going to be the scenario, but that's a scenario. And if that happens, when we're like, but even Susan Collins said that she would support it soon, people are going to be absolutely frustrated. And like you were saying, and what John Solomon hinted to, we just seen what got exposed in Georgia. And man, are they trying to push the conversation other places. And we're starting to see some conversations, happen in Arizona. And John Solomon saying this election stuff's going to come forward. And I think what's going to happen in the event the SAVE Act don't pass or something else happens, people are going to be like, we're done. And I think what Trump can potentially do, this is a potential scenario, and I'd like to get your thoughts on this, Josh, as we get into this conversation, is Trump may use some presidential powers that have never been done before. That's going to challenge, are all three branches equal, like our Constitution has kind of been taught to us? And if they are equal, does the office of the president itself, does that isolated role hold a power or powers to make moves and say, as the president of the United States, I'm going to federalize these elections that are, on the federal side, not the state stuff, to go like this: single day, paper ballots, and IDs. And people are going to lose their mind that this is not the balance of powers. The president can't do this. But if you remember, elections are considered national infrastructure.
Okay. I know where you're going with this.
Okay,
listen to John Solomon right here. Okay. I want people to listen to what John Solomon says today.
Now we have a bunch of lazy senators who want to threaten the filibuster and not get off their feet and talk and really represent the people and stand for what they believe in. And all the American people are asking John Thune to do is to restore the Senate to the way it used to work before Mitch McConnell's lazy filibuster ideas kind of came into play. And I think that the American people are going to be there. Here's what I think is going to happen, Dan. And I think you probably know some of this because you had a foresight into some of the things that the Bureau now knows that was kept from the American public. I think Donald Trump is going to change the narrative in America. I think he's going to change some senators' minds, and he's going to do it by revealing some of the things that Chris Wray and that the Chris Krebs and other major officials who were in charge of the integrity of our elections and who told us it was a perfect election in 2020. He's going to start revealing some of the intelligence that was kept from the American people. And we're going to see that our foreign adversaries have monkeyed with our system more than we knew, more than those driver's licenses coming into Chicago that you helped get all of us to understand about a few months ago about China sending fake driver's licenses to help Joe Biden in. There are going to be significant efforts by foreign powers, some friends, some enemies, that were trying to meddle in the system, and they got pretty far down that path. And I think when senators realized their state could have been targeted, when senators realized that the intention of the identities of some of their voters might have been assumed, I think there's going to be a different debate in America. And I think if the president takes the time to educate people and show them that maybe the stories we got from the last leadership weren't true, I think he's going to pick off the votes. And then the American people are going to put some pressure on John Thune, and they're going to surgically implant a stiff back, and he's going to change that filibuster for this particular thing, make it a standing filibuster, make the Democrats talk till they drop, and then we'll get a vote in the summer. But I think there's some big, significant, and very troubling revelations about the vulnerabilities of our elections that the president is about to unveil on the American public.
Okay. A few different parts on this. Back in August, September, DNI, Tulsi Gabbard, sent a team, as well at the same time, Pete Hegseth had the military moving in to Puerto Rico. They went out there, they secured a lot of the Dominion voting machines. They found massive vulnerabilities and penetration that had been done on them in the last elections. That led the precedent for what we saw in Georgia with the raid in Fulton County. And then we had John Sullivan come out and make an announcement about Arizona, but it was a nothing burger. No, that was a warning. That was to get the people scattering, making the phone calls happen and the chatter start going back and forth for people to start getting scared. Why? There is 2 countries or 3 countries that we know were involved in the theft of the 2020 election. Now, I know that people are like, come on, there's more to it. Yes, there's more to it, but there's 3 countries we know with information that has came out over the course of the last 3 months: Venezuela, Cuba, and Iran. Okay. Now, got to remember, what did we have? We had massive naval armada off the coast of Venezuela. We went in, swooped in, took their president. We got their president over here. And don't worry, he's talking, because who was on there in Caracas with Maduro on election day? The Iranian foreign minister. Now Donald Trump has cut off basically an embargo of Cuba, basically starving Cuba of energy until their government collapses and makes a deal. I made the prediction today. I'll make the prediction again. Cuba in the next few years will be most likely like Puerto Rico, a territory of the United States of America, and their government will be dismantled. But then where is the armada of the U.S. Navy heading right now?
That'd be to the Middle East, sir.
Iran. And who is the other country? Oh, Iran. Okay, but don't get me wrong. China's involved in this. And who is the friend that John Solomon was talking about? That's the UK guys. That's MI6 and French intelligence and British intelligence that he's talking about or hinting towards right there. So here's the thing. Maduro talked. Maduro brought receipts. Now this is why this is coming out and why this is going to happen. And here's the thing. Donald Trump a week and a half ago made DNI Tulsi Gabbard the head of the task force overseeing election integrity and infrastructure.
Let me add one little asterisk to the Maduro talks, just so people understand, is we know, we have everything, right? We understand that. But just because you have everything, you have to be able to use it legally.
Mm-hmm.
So when Maduro talks, they're asking them the questions to the things that they already know. But Maduro is somebody who is an official government, government official who can now provide this information to intelligence in a legal atmosphere that allows them to make the next step where this information could be used because it was legally obtained. So it's not like they were asking them questions they didn't know, like, oh, Maduro said Iran. They knew. They needed him to provide them the receipts that they could put to paper.
Correct. 100%. So now you have DNI Tulsi Gabbard, who's overseeing the task force on election infrastructure and integrity, of which they already started with Puerto Rico. They are the ones that led the Fulton County. Now, the question that many people here need to ask is, why was DNI Tulsi Gabbard in Fulton County, Georgia during the raid? Why? That's an FBI thing. Why is the director of national intelligence there? Because it was a matter of national security and foreign nationals were involved. That is why. And that was a signifier that they knew this, and that's why they were there. So when you start to see this, this becomes the precedent for what Alpha's talking about. A national emergency on election infrastructure and integrity prior to the 2026 midterm elections, of which, because they have the compromised voting systems from Puerto Rico, as well as in Fulton County, Georgia, they can come out and say, okay, we're only going to use ES&S systems. We're not going to use any Dominion voting systems or anything that's running the Smartmatic core software. We're not that any election bureau that has an election machine that's running a precinct, that there absolutely has to be zero. Federal inspectors can come in. They can look for Wi-Fi connections. They can look for smart meters, all of this stuff. That there is going to be a national emergency on election infrastructure and integrity. I assure you it's coming, whether the SAFE Act comes in about or not. And here's the problem with the SAFE Act. If the SAFE Act gets passed tomorrow, states have to implement this. They have to clean up their voter rolls. They have to do all of these things. Look, we don't need to clean up the voter rolls. We need to purge the freaking voter rolls and have everybody re-register under the SAFE Act. That is what you need to happen. It's not about cleaning up voter rolls. You need to purge the entire voter roll, right? But states They don't want to go forth with this, and they believe that they have complete power over this through the 10th Amendment. So they're going to drag their feet. And what's going to happen, I believe, through the national emergency is it'll disqualify their state for aid, funding, and various other subsidies that they get, but also disqualify their legal standing of their votes when it comes to Senate or something like that. So that there's going to be massive implications for the states if they do not implement the SAFE Act prior to the next election. But I think that Alpha probably nailed it with saying that what you're going to see is that election day will be through a national emergency. Election day will be a holiday. Nobody has to go to work. Everybody gets it off, a paid holiday that you have to vote in person with an ID, paper ballots, and paper ballots must be multi-counted. They have to be done through machines that are not Smartmatic core programming operated, something of that nature. That's my thoughts. But it's also going to come about under the guise that all of this is being declassed and the American people understand why it's happening.
And this is why these two things intertwine like DNA right here when it comes to Epstein and it comes to elections. I'll explain how or why is when Trump does this, because he's going to do it, folks. And here's the thing. He just dropped a hint, I think it was 3 days ago, when he says, I don't care if it passes or not.
Yeah, I got a solution.
I got a solution, and we're going to be voting one day. He goes, with IDs on ballots. He said it, folks. It's on his Truth Social. Somebody wants to grab the link and drop it in the chat. I'll share it with everybody. Well, and people are like, wait, what? And I said, hey, look, this is what we've been hinting at. Because here's what's going to happen. When he does that, and he uses all this stuff that John Solomon's hinting at right now, the left, and I'm talking about the Democrats, the establishment, mostly Democrats, but you're going to see Republican pushback here too. They're going to lose their mind.
Mm-hmm.
Trump can't do this. And what's the plan when this happens? This is the final ace card for the deep state. This is when they want to deploy Antifa, BLM, all the different units that came in under the guise of an immigration crisis. The stuff that me and Josh have been telling, we've already infiltrated those groups as well, and we have the intel. This is when they want to go and deploy all that. Here's the thing. You got to have lieutenants and generals and sergeants to deploy it. And so when Trump does this and they start to fluff up their peacock feathers because they're going to get ready to do this, right, to give the all-go signal, well, then that's when that final batch of the Epstein files comes out. And the atrocities that we've been hearing about but haven't seen yet, now we have names and pictures and videos. Now, granted, that stuff's going to be redacted because it's crimes, but this is the stuff that comes out where all of a sudden we have, do we have indictments? Do we have investigations?
Hakeem Jeffries is out there yelling and screaming. All of a sudden, oh, well, look at this, Hakeem. Now he has to resign. At the same time, what happens? Right before when the Antifa is organizing mass protests. No Kings comes back up. Mass protests, right? And 2 weeks before all that happens, they take down the NGO network, the funding network of all of these protests. They rug pulled them all. Listen, Minnesota was a setup. For anybody out there who doesn't understand, the reason why they flooded ICE into Minnesota was to bring chaos. They wanted these protests to rise up. They wanted to see how their networks operated. They wanted to infiltrate their communication. They wanted to see who was organizing it, who in politics was involved, how the money was flowing. And Scott Bessent came out and said, the template that we just used in Minnesota is the same template we're going to use throughout the rest of the country.
You know what Tom Homan said?
What's that?
Tom Homan said this, and I think me and you might have talked about it on another show or maybe privately. But he came out and made a statement. I was like, why isn't anybody asking this question? He said, we just rescued 3,300 children in Minnesota. Well, hold on. Tom Homan doesn't work for the FBI. Doesn't work for he's Customs and Border Patrol. They go and they pick up illegals and they deport them. So what does he mean when he says we rescued 3,300 children? Oh. Were some of these illegals doing human trafficking?
Well, and notice how he didn't say we grabbed children and their parents and returned them to their country. These children were not with their parents, people. I think that's another important caveat that we have to express there. So when we start to look at Minnesota, this operation, and I called it, man. If you go back to my X feed, I said right after the last person, Preddy, was killed, I said, okay, what has to happen next is immediate de-escalation, pull ICE back. And what did the Trump administration did? They pulled ICE back. Why? Because that de-escalated the situation in Minnesota, because they had already collected all the SIGINT human that they needed from what was going on. If people really think that Nick Sotor and all those guys went in there and hacked into that Signal chat by accident, you're crazy. That wasn't by accident, okay?
No.
Listen,
they wouldn't be alive if they didn't have assistance.
That's right. So I want people to understand that there's massive setups happening. And here's the thing is you can't just start taking down one piece of the puzzle. You got to dismantle it all at the same time. And I think that summer of 2026 is going to be the dismantling. But I will also say this is if we get into the midterms and we just barely win and we lose the House and we win the Senate and no accountability has been had, there's going to be
Issues.
problems.
There's
going to be big freaking problems, because by that time it is no longer about it's revolution time.
The court of public opinion becomes very vulnerable to any agenda that's put out there. Good guy, bad guy.
It's time to tear the system down. It doesn't matter who's in power and control.
Yeah. At that point, people are looking at the calendar, and like I said, people can become victim to any agenda, because it's just time becomes the biggest enemy to the white hats at that point. And they know this. I think they understand this.
There's 9 months before all hell either breaks loose or all joy is praised.
100%. We're going to know one way or the other. And what I anticipate is going to happen is when Trump makes that claim, you're going to see them try to create the chaos. It's going to be at the same time all this information comes out, and you're going to see people resign. You're going to see people that are arrested, and they're going to want chaos. Their minions that are still left are going to try to figure out what's going on, but they're just not going to have the numbers or the direction to facilitate it. And you're going to see the midterms. I don't want to use the word stolen, because they're not going to be stolen, but you're going to see the black hat operation completely rug pulled. But in the meantime, you're going to have to see people get frustrated, because when Trump goes and makes that decision, he needs to have the court of public opinion behind him for the push that's going to come against him. And to get that kind of court of public opinion behind him is going to require frustrated people that are going to be like, you know what? Fine. Like, that's what it takes. We try to do this. They didn't do it. This person's compromised. That rhino's compromised. At that point, and I think this is why you see some notable names, some good names that are like, Trump, you got to do this, and Trump, you got to do that, because all these different people have targeted groups and targeted audiences that follow them, that are like, well, if this person's kind of showing this behavior, frustration, and demands, then it must be right. And this is happening at all levels, folks. Like every level in the arena has somebody. That's why a lot of people are like, why are people looking at this person? Why are people following this person? Like, listen, you guys got to get over it. Like, these people have audiences, and they got to facilitate the message that they believe is accurate, so that it resonates with that audience to push to the goal. The end game for all of us is secured elections and pedophiles arrested. And there's
I want more arrested than just the pedophiles.
Yeah,
but
no.
I mean,
You get what I'm saying.
I want opportunity and prosperity brought back to this country. I want Americans to thrive in this world. I want us to lead the next generation of innovation and technology and human advancement. But here's the thing.
But before we get
Trump
to that,
already set that up.
And before that cat's out of the bag, we got to shed the dead skin. And that's going to require justice, and that's going to require accountability, and that's going to require elections that are legitimate. And then all that great stuff, comes on the heels of all that. And so with that, then I wanted to bring us into the conversation of the mainstream media and acknowledging Q. And so one of the first things I want to do is bring up a video. Jordan posted this on his account. I think it was a few days ago, because the days are blending, and it's with Junior. So let me bring it up. It's about
4 or 5 months old. It was from his Triggered podcast, but yep, it's a good one.
So let's take a listen to this, folks, and then we'll have a conversation.
Q is Trump. I don't know. Who is Q? You'll never know, folks. I'm not sure, or maybe I know, and I just can't tell you. Who do you guys think it is? Out of curiosity. Let's see. Oh, that one's gonna get me in trouble. I might have to pass that one. They were like, when my father, they asked him about it. He's like, well, so what's well, they hate pedophiles. He's like, is this a trick question? Like, is that a bad thing? Like, I don't understand what you're asking me. I mean, they were trying to like, go after the notion of the Q stuff, and it was like, well, they don't like big government. They really just like pedophiles. He's like, I don't understand. Like, am I supposed to come out against this? I know you want me to disavow literally everything and anything I've ever said, but like, I don't know. Is that component of it so bad? I don't know all the other stuff that's out there. Who knows? But man, yeah, Roseanne's great.
So he's addressing the conversation with Savannah Guthrie, or Guthrie, however you say his name. This was during COVID, and remember they had like 20 feet between them, because it was so dangerous. And she presents him with the question, and I know you know this. I'm saying it for the sake of the audience. Who's QAnon, right? And we all understand there's Q and there's Anons, but this is the mainstream media, that have attached that verbiage. And then, Junior explains the way that conversation goes. But Trump makes a point at the end of that conversation. This was one of the videos I had in the folder, and I apologize that I don't have it, you guys. But he makes a point at the end of that conversation, and I didn't even catch this the first time. I mean, I heard it. We all heard it, but it didn't strike me what he was doing. Before they move on to the next segment in the conversation, he says, look. I denounced this, and I denounced that. All these bad things. He goes, okay. But he doesn't denounce Q or QAnon. So he makes it a point for her to say, look, I denounced all this other stuff you asked me to denounce, but he wouldn't denounce. Oh,
here's a town hall about it. Let's just listen. This is a different one, but let's listen to this one.
Democrats are a satanic pedophile ring and that you are the savior.
I know nothing about it. I do know they are very much against pedophilia. They fight it very hard, but I know nothing about it.
They believe it is
If
a
you'd like
satanic
me
cult
to
run by the deep
study the
state.
subject. Let me just tell you, what I do hear about it is they are very strongly against pedophilia. And I agree with that. I mean, I do agree with that. And I agree with it.
But there's not
very
a
strongly.
satanic pedophile
I have
cult
no
they run
idea.
by.
I know
You
nothing
don't know
about
that? Okay.
No, I don't know.
You
that.
Does now.
He does now. And like I said, at the tail end of that conversation, he makes it very clear. And I denounce all this other stuff. And this is very cool. Dior Media gave us one of the Rumble Wallet ones in here. That is pretty awesome.
That's in gold.
I was trying to figure out what it is. I was like, that is awesome. I haven't seen that one yet.
Yeah, that's in gold.
That is freaking. That's cool. Like,
Yeah, that's the power of Rumble Wallet right there.
Dang, that was
you can
cool.
send gold 24/7.
That's the first time I've gone to seeing gold in the Rumble Wallet. That was freaking legit. Super cool. But in that conversation, like I said, he makes a point that, hey, look, I denounced everything else, folks, but I didn't denounce Q or the Anons or Q and
Yep. And he also says, is that such a bad thing? Like, you're saying like I should denounce this because they're against pedophilia and satanic, blood drinking. Is it bad for me to support people who are against that? No. And I think that right now the world is kind of waking up to the idea that like, hey, maybe that Q stuff was real after all. And, when you start to look at the Q boards and all the attention that was given to Epstein, it now starts to make complete and total sense of why that attention was given to Epstein, because he's kind of like this intermediary between all of these deep state and globalist interactions. But we are finding more and more evidence every day that some of these people associated with Epstein and Epstein himself were some very, very evil, sick puppies. Right now, which is interesting, I think, is Zorro Ranch. That they're gonna
Well,
the state
hold
of
off on that one because I actually want to talk about that one specifically after this conversation because there's some interesting things going on regarding Zorro Ranch and the owner on that. I want to bring up, so we saw Junior, and now I want to bring it up into kind of a more recent conversation that took place on a straight shooter with Steven, right? And
Yep.
this dude pisses me off sometimes, but then sometimes I love what he does. Like I love how he rags on the Cowboys because I hate the Cowboys. But he brings Bill Maher on. And this is one that went pretty, definitely went viral within the Q community. So take a listen to this, folks. It's about 2 minutes.
What were your thoughts about the Epstein files and 3 million pages being released? And, now we are hearing that Bill and Hillary Clinton have both agreed to testify in the House ahead of the contempt of Congress vote. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, I mean, this is certainly something we were talking in my meeting today about what I'm going to talk about on the show Friday, because it's just too interesting. And also, I can't believe I'm saying this, but where does QAnon go for the apology? I mean, QAnon, which believed in lots of really ridiculous things like, Democrats eat babies, but they were kind of harping a lot on the idea that the elites are running this pedophile ring. And I mean, I made jokes about them. I also made jokes after the Epstein thing happened originally that were on the idea of, obviously there was some smoke there. Well, now with all that's come out in the last couple of weeks, there's a little more than smoke. It does look like anybody who was at all able to get in touch with Jeffrey Epstein, he was the man.
We're doing it.
They just, yeah. I mean, and then they all lied about it. Everybody has, and the arrogance also of thinking they could just use their real name in an email, which they did, and didn't try to couch it in, when I used to get pot before it was legal, it was like, I'd like 2 shirts, please, and no seeds in the shirts this time. We had to sort of codify it. No, they're just openly talking in emails about this sort of, sexual perversion, and that they were all doing, and lots of people who you didn't think, or I never imagined were doing it. I see these names come up. So, I mean, QAnon, yes, a lot of crazy there, but you know what? You weren't totally wrong about that, guys.
What were your thoughts?
So here's something I haven't heard anybody bring up yet, Josh.
Mm-hmm.
I hear a lot of people, including some of my friends that I really like, saying things like, so you're going to trust Bill Maher? Or, hey, you're going to trust this person in mainstream media? And here's the thing. I get it. But did people not infiltrate the Republican ranks, Josh?
Yeah, they did.
Did people not infiltrate the president's administration?
They did.
So
does it work both ways?
Thank you very
well, let me ask you this.
much.
Who visited Donald Trump and had lunch with him at the White House just a few months ago?
Who would that be?
Bill Maher.
Oh.
You didn't know that? Oh my God.
Listen, if y'all think Charlie Kirk was just an influencer that owned TP USA, then you guys have completely forgotten about the Ghost 60,000 Army. Here's the thing, folks. The same way a lot of the people in Fox News and alt media were like these people are deep establishment puppets. You don't think the White Hats did the same damn thing to CNN, to ESPN, to MSNBC, to The View, you're damn right they did. Who? We're going to find out. We're going to find out by people coming out and making statements like this. Because here's the thing. A lot of stuff can be true at the same time. Me and Josh talked about this at the onset of the show. We haven't seen the atrocities yet in the emails. So everybody that's doing the seal or it's like show me the email that's evidentiary that shows these things. Not somebody that's reposting a story, not an FBI bulletin talking about this came out. Show me something of evidentiary value, legit evidence, the way we would see it in court. That shows that. And the thing is, we don't have it. We have a bunch of insinuations. We have a bunch of information. We have a bunch of stuff that people put together in emails, but there's nothing's been put out that would ever get anybody convicted in court. Just let you guys know right now. Out of all the stuff we've seen, none of that it would be enough to get anybody convicted in court.
Do you know who Eric Weinstein is?
I do.
Okay. So people who don't know who Eric Weinstein is, he's former college professor, him and his brother, Brett Weinstein, who does the Dark Horse podcast. They were tenured professors during COVID. They spoke up about mRNA and all of this stuff and really got hammered for it. And they're very much liberal. They're Democrats. They were completely anti-Trump. And I think Eric is kind of like back and forth with it, right? Well, Eric is a quintessential genius. The dude is super smart. He's a physicist, kind of mathematician, physicist, incredibly smart. He understands things. Well, one of the things, Eric Weinstein, he was one of the scientists who actually had relations, not like a lot of these people, but he knew Jeffrey Epstein. He had collaborated with Jeffrey Epstein on various different projects and things like that. He did this post today. And if you've read any of my work on my Substack pertaining to Epstein and biogenetic research and scientific research and everything like that, you might want to listen to what Eric Weinstein's saying here. He goes, Zorro Ranch is about Los Alamos and Sandia. Those are national laboratories for people who don't know. Maybe murders happen there, maybe baby farms too, but it plays the same role to national laboratories as one Brattle Square played the mathematics and physics worlds at Harvard and MIT and their affiliated labs, Draper, Lincoln, etc. And he shows that obviously it's right in between. He goes, this is where I'd set up a listening post if I were a spy and I was interested in number theory, cryptography, MIT military research, and physics. One Brattle Square is just off of Harvard Yard, center of Harvard Square, Cambridge, but without having the scrutiny of being on canvas. My point, we're getting distracted by the satanic first do scientific espionage, science of mass control, science of high leverage, science of mass destruction, energy weapons, codes, Bitcoin, nukes. Maybe the satanic is the ultimate question. Use science espionage to get there. He's telling people, I know that there's evil out there and Epstein was involved in this. Yes, we know there's baby farms and there's satanic stuff involved in this. He goes, that's not the real story. He goes, Epstein was a freelancer to intelligence agencies, foreign adversaries, foreign friends. He was brokering data. You got to remember, how did Jeffrey Epstein make his money? He was the financial intermediary to arms and human traffickers for intelligence agencies. The CIA hired him because he worked for Bear Stearns, which they got him the job there. They put people like Aden Khashoggi, who was the arms dealer for Iran-Contra, in contact with Jeffrey Epstein, of which Jeffrey Epstein took Khashoggi's money, put it into Bear Stearns, put it in the structured investments, and then paid that distribution out in the shell companies, which then went into dark money channels, funneled back to the CIA to fund operations. This is how Epstein made his money. So here's the thing: how do you do the same thing with intelligence? How do you do it with military technology? How do you do it from Sandia, so forth, for listening posts? This is what Eric, who knew Epstein, is trying to tell you. You're just talking about real crimes.
So I want to go back to, let's rewind the clock back to when I was a detective. Remember, one of the scenarios is that mainstream media is doing this because we've infiltrated their ranks. Now let's talk about another scenario why mainstream media and large voices might be acknowledging Q and vindicating it. I remember Josh, and I hadn't been a cop that long, maybe 5 or 6 years. And I go and I catch a guy. And I'm like, hey, man, I know you're trying to sell some drugs right now. Now, this is a guy I've arrested before. I'm not talking to you. F the police, right? Just a piece of right? And this time, I got him there, and he's in the car, and I'm telling him, I know you're doing this, and I'm doing this. And he goes, yeah, man, I'm making stupid decisions. I don't know why I'm trying to sell drugs. And I was like, now, most cops would have been like, yeah, got him. He admitted it. You know what I said, Josh? Why does this fucking guy admit to this so easy?
Because he's doing worse things.
Why does he want me just to arrest him on this drug stuff and head off to the station?
Misdirection.
What does he not want me to investigate? What is he doing that's so bad that he's like, yep, dude, I was selling drugs. Let's go. Collect your evidence. Take me to jail so I can get my probation, be out in the morning. That investigation would reveal significantly larger crimes that implicated more gang members. So I have to pause and think. If the mainstream media is coming out and Bill Maher, let's say Bill Maher is not a good guy, right? Let's say he's not an infiltrator.
I just showed him on the cue boards.
Yeah, let's just show he's a legitimate bad guy. And they're coming out, they're like, yeah, you know, Q is right. Yep. You know, pizza and hot dogs, you know, these sick PDF files, right? We're out there and doing these things. Shouldn't we pause and be like, hey, time out, coach? Are they trying to use our own egos against us? Are they trying to get us to where we celebrate and say vindication? Or they said Q is real. We told everybody we were right, so that we just celebrate that they're acknowledging Q instead of being like, hey, we know these people are next level bad.
Mm-hmm.
Are they trying to? Is this a distraction? Are they diverting us from really going deeper? Which takes us into what you were talking about with Zorro Ranch.
So I love this. Before you get into the Zorro Ranch stuff, let me show you the Reuters X.com headline today, because this is your drug dealer admitting, yeah, man, I was selling drugs. Damn it, you caught me. Oh, I'm sorry. Millions of files related to Jeffrey Epstein suggest the existence of a global criminal enterprise that carried out acts meetings of a legal threshold of crimes against humanity, a panel of independent experts appointed by the UN Human Rights Council says. Okay. They're trying to bury it. They're going to, okay, yep, it's true. He was doing that. Okay. Don't look deeper, please. Don't release more information. Please don't go further. And I explained this a little bit on my show of why they don't want people to go further. Okay. Now, I'm going to bring up just my Substack article. So people, it's also on X. It's this one right here. And I have multiple different posts throughout the last few years. The architect of global genetic control grid and superhumans. You got to remember, people are talking about the pandemic planning stuff that he was doing with people from Metabiota and stuff like that. What people are not catching on to is this idea here. Number one, you had a company 23andMe. You had two different cohorts in Europe of the same company. They all went out of business at the same time because they all went out of business because of massive data leaks of DNA information were leaked. Those companies dissolved and disappeared. 2 years later, Google comes out with Alpha Genome. Where did they get all the genetic information to create the data banks for AI to create Alpha Genome? It was a honeypotting operation. Global honeypotting operation directly affiliated with Jeffrey Epstein. Not only that, there's so much more to it. This is the dark side that they are misdirecting people and don't want you to see. Let me make this little connection. Nathan Wolf is the founder of Metabiota. And you and I know that Game Tech, Blue Canary, they helped break all of this story on Metabiota. Metabiota, people don't know, was funded from investment capital from a venture capital firm known as Rosemont Seneca, which just happened to be owned by Devin Archer and Hunter Biden. Interesting. This is 2013, 2014. Metabiota was a subcontractor off of a primary contractor known as Black & Veatch. Black & Veatch operated in many of the various different biolabs in Ukraine and in other countries that are still classified, like Honduras and Guatemala, which we know U.S. biolabs are in. Now, here's the other parts of this. They also subcontracted various different German biotech and biopharma firms. Okay. Now, begin to put this together. What was the purpose of Russia's special military operation in the eastern Donbass region of Ukraine? What was their reasoning behind it? They said that Zelensky and the Azov Nazi battalions were killing ethnically Russian people in those areas with bioweapon testing. Over 16,000 people had been killed. Well, isn't that interesting that those are the same locations of a lot of those biolabs? Now, here is the one part and why we'll never see these documents. Number one is Jeffrey Epstein was interested in this, financed it, and funded it. He's directly associated with all of these people involved in it. But Black & Veatch was a contractor that worked directly for the Defense Intelligence Agency and DARPA. And once you start to make that connection, because this is what the idea that you need to have, they were running genetic and scientific experimentation on children in countries that we consider to be autonomous zones. No international oversight, no laws pertaining to genetic experimentation, and it was the U.S. military. It was the big pharmaceutical and biotech companies and the big tech companies. They were all in on this. Epstein was a procurer of DNA and children for these types of genetic experimentations on children in places like Ukraine. That's the big thing that they're misdirecting you. They don't want you to find out. They don't want people to uncover. I'm telling you, if this ever does break, which I hope it does, this would take down the world infrastructure. It would collapse it. The moment that they realize that their militaries, their governments, the global elite were doing genetic experimentation on children and throwing them away like lab mice, it's definitely over.
When they're willing to say, hey, you caught us with the baby satanic stuff, that's the moment you got to say, I'm not going to celebrate. I got to dig farther now. And what you're seeing right now is you're seeing the exposure of some personalities within the Q community that are kind of showing I'm more excited about my ego and vindication right now. And I'll just recover if it turns out to be something else. And that's never what this was about. This was meant to make us keep digging. This was meant to, when you think that you have victory, then you haven't studied Sun Tzu. Appear weak, when strong, and appear strong when you're weak. And that's what we're seeing play out in real time. So then here's the third scenario that I'll present. So just to recap, scenario one is some of these people in mainstream media were actually good guys that we used to infiltrate, mainstream media. Scenario two, we just kind of recap. Scenario two is they're gonna sacrifice some of their people, and they're gonna sacrifice these headlines in order to keep the main atrocities buried. And scenario three, and in the end, it may be a combination of all three of these scenarios. And scenario three is this one. I know this one may be unpopular, but I'm gonna put it out there anyways because it's a legitimate scenario that you guys have to be prepared for, especially the people in the Q community. Mm-hmm. Q is an operation, right? A military operation. And I can tell you from someone who's ran operations, I would never disclose the mechanics of how my operation worked, especially if it was successful. Ever. Because I might have to deploy it again. And so I think the community has to prepare itself that you may never get the complete answer of what Q was and who Q was. You may get a lot of strong implied statements, but this may be the next 100-year thing that you're like, well, we know there's enough that's been presented to be Trump posted on Truth with a Q plus on his collar, because I agree, I think Trump's Q plus, I do too, but I need you guys to prepare yourselves for the fact that Trump may never come out and say, hey, I was Q plus, and these are the people that were a part of Q. We may never know that, and if that's the case, one of the things people have to prepare for is that there's a bunch of demographics of people, not just in our country, but globally. But let's just talk about America. There are people that are never going to turn to alt media ever again, or never to begin with. They're gonna stay isolated to MSNBC and CNN and Fox. You have people in alt media that are never going to go back to mainstream media ever. So this new look, and granted, technology is going to have a huge impact on this as well. But you're going to have mainstream media that's always going to exist. You're going to have alt media that's always going to exist. And I think what we're starting to see here, and remember, this is a potential third scenario here, is mainstream media needs to get its credibility back. And it's going to have to acknowledge some things. I think we are going to see the Smith Modernization Act. I think we're going to see that law reverse. And that propaganda is, once both sides are done using it, they're not, it's going to be removed from the equation. And I think what we're going to see is we're going to see that the thing to keep mainstream media honest, probably for the first time, right, is not going to be CNN and Fox as competitors. The competitor to mainstream media is going to be alt media. If we don't start putting out accurate media as mainstream, we're going to completely lose this to alt media. But here's the catch. Alt media is going to be found in the same predicament. Alt media is going to get to the point where, all right, we can't just sell these wild conspiracy theories. We can't just sell this stuff because we don't have credibility anymore. And mainstream media is starting to gain some of its rapport back. So the balance to make alt media become more responsible, because alt media isn't responsible right now. If we're going to be honest, it is not responsible right now. We see that. And so these two factions of information, I think, are actually going to be the balance of each other, which is going to be a net benefit for all the audience, the people that watch. And I think that's something that we also might be witnessing unfold right now, is all that stuff starting to come into play to where you have this. And I think we're going to see a lot of people that are exposed themselves. So here's a point I'm going to make. And I didn't see what name it is, and I wouldn't say the name it is. I don't want to put anybody on the spot. But somebody in the chat said, look at all the negative stuff that Trump is saying. I forget whose name was it on there. I think they might have said, gosh, I don't remember whose name it was, right? They're like, Trump saying all this negative stuff about that person, right? I was Bill Maher. They're saying, look at all the negative.
He did. He brought that back into the circulation about a week ago. I just wanted to throw this out there. 54 minutes ago, Trump repost Pepe Deluxe. I'll be the one that shut it down. Interesting enough. We were talking about that. He also posted another Q account. The storm has arrived, Storm Redux. And interesting enough, it just happened to be the video that we talked about 10 minutes later.
Keep that shut it down, because that's going to come into play when we get into the deltas tonight. But here's the thing. Trump put out that thing about Bill Maher. And so people will say, well, see, there's proof. There's proof that Bill Maher is bad. So then here's my question to you guys. Trump said that Hillary Clinton's a beautiful woman. She's great. So does that mean Hillary Clinton's good? Yeah, I know y'all gonna be like, hell no.
He just said it recently too. He said, look, I could have prosecuted Hillary, but I didn't. I saved her.
So, and that's why I'm saying, folks, you got to understand that Trump's words are just words. You got to look at his actions. What does the follow through look like on this stuff? And like I said, I'm not saying Bill Maher's bad. I'm not saying that Bill Maher's good. My interpretation is, if you were asking me to force a bet, I'm going to probably bet that he's bad. But what I'm going to say is, we just don't know, because of all the infiltration that's happened on both sides of this equation. We just don't know. And so think about that. And I'm going to use one right now that's just going to get the chat riled up, bro. It's going to get the chat riled up, right? Everybody right now is just like Steve Bannon's evil. And I'm with you guys. Like, I don't like this shit that I'm seeing at all. But Trump ain't saying nothing bad about Steve Bannon yet. A lot of the people that I like and respect are like, they're calling for this dude to be lynched, right? And so, I'm kind of like, because I'm not immune to this stuff, right? I see it too, and I'm just like, get rid of this dude. Like, what the hell happened, man? Like, he fooled us, right? But then I have to watch President Trump, and President Trump's still saying good things about him. So then Bannon comes out and says, hey, this stuff's related to the Epstein film, and I'm going to bury him. And I'm just saying, I'm going to do a little holdback reservation here, because what if he releases this film and all those statements that Steve Bannon was making was because he was undercover and infiltrated Epstein, got close to him, built trust with him, and then used that information to feed it to the White Hats, feed it to President Trump. to bury Epstein. And what if this film that we're going to see from Steve Bannon is something that legitimately buries
Well, I
Epstein?
thought the film was released, but it's unredacted. Is it the unpublished interview stuff that we want released? 16 hours of it.
And you know, I'm just saying, you're going to probably see a lot of people who are like, whoa. I mean, I don't know how people walk it back. I just want to remind everybody that we're in the real time. Like, this is no longer just dissecting stuff that has happened. We are living in the active information war.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to just challenge everybody, take pause on any thoughts that you have and ask yourself, am I going along with this thought because enough people and podcasters are saying it and I'm listening to them? Or should I dig a little into this and see what else can be there? And if I ultimately come to where I don't know, maybe I should give it a few days. I think what we're going to see in this segment of the war that we're in is, what does authenticity and credibility look like? And I think that's something we're all going to have to protect moving forward. And if the stuff about Steve Bannon comes out to be legit, well then, hey, there's a consequence for that, especially if you're trying to subvert the president, you know, the way a lot of these messages indicate, and we will see. And so I wanted to
didn't Trump just have lunch with Bannon like last week?
Yeah. I mean, we had a great conversation on, I think it was Q After Hours, about Bannon, and we brought up Miles Gow and all that. That was a great show on Sunday night if you guys didn't get a chance to see it. But that's kind of where we're at. So then real quick on Zorro Ranch, and then we'll get into, I'm looking at the clock here, and then we'll get into the deltas. There's a lot of influencers and podcasters right now that are like, you know, Don Hoffines, he went and bought Zorro Ranch. How could anybody buy that? Now, granted, I can understand that, because I don't think I would ever want to buy one of Epstein's properties, given the stuff we know. However, this is what I gotta also remind people. Don Hoffines didn't buy it last month. He bought that a few years ago, and it was very public when he bought it. Why weren't any of these people calling for, hey, bring someone on your property, hey, do this, hey, do that? Why did this attack or insinuations about Don Hoffines happen 48 hours before the voting?
Gotta wonder.
You got to wonder. If Hoffines comes out and says, hey, if law enforcement wants to come onto my property, or a group that can have insurance to back them, you know, because obviously...
Oh, he already did. He came out yesterday and said it.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. But he had already said these things. He came out again. He put it pen to paper so people could read it. But he's been open to this in the past. But these same people they want to say, no. He comes out and he said, hey, the proceeds from this need to go to the victims. And these same people that are trying to paint Don Hoffines in a bad light are saying, well, there's no evidence of that. Well, hold on. There's no evidence of the stuff you're saying either. So how are you going to push that? You guys need to start realizing that they know that the satanic cult stuff, the assault stuff from Epstein, the babies, they know that this is an emotional hook, and they weaponize it against you to see people through a different light. Because by the time you realize, oh, it wasn't that, by the time you read Don Hoffines' letter, you're like, oh, damage is done. How many people went and voted for the other guy instead of the guy? Here's the thing. Don Hoffines is going to doge the shit out of Texas if he wins. If you guys don't know that. Comp controller, that's what he's going to do. It's a title that a lot of people probably haven't realized, but what he's going to do is he's going to doge Texas.
Yep.
And that is the real reason you are seeing these attacks on him. That's where this comes from. And I'm not saying I endorse Hoffines. I'm not saying I don't. I'll tell you this, a lot of people that I respect and have been paying attention to what's going on in Texas have a lot of great things to say about him. So I don't have any reason to believe that that's not true. I believe that stuff's accurate. I just wanted people to realize, you know, this is what his intentions. You know, he went out, put a letter, said he wanted to turn into a Christian retreat and take back what, you know, take from the devil, or something the devil manipulated into something evil and turned it into something good. And we'll see. I mean, I think it's all just weird anyways. But another scenario too is, how do you know that he didn't buy it to preserve it?
Good call. How do you know that he didn't buy it to ensure that someone that's close to Epstein didn't get in there and destroy all the evidence? And what are they doing? What a great time to be doing the search on the property when it's under construction. Like the tennis court is coming up, and the tennis court, I wonder what is buried under there. And so this is going to be interesting because you got to remember, what did Todd Blanche say about a week and a half ago? That through the release of the documents that we just made, the 3 million, there is no new crimes that we discovered. Now, let's assume that people go out there, authorities, they bring ground penetrating radar, they go through Epstein's property, and they find bodies. They find a graveyard. Guess what that does? Now we have names that are unredacted, that are associated with Epstein, claiming there was bodies buried there. Epstein is now implicated. Not only Epstein, but anybody who went to Zorro Ranch becomes a suspect. See how this begins to unravel and open up?
Now,
Same.
here's something that's that's pretty awesome. It feels like gloating because a little bit it is. Y'all know my position on Massey, right? I'm not a fan of him. I'm open to the idea that he's playing a role. I'll put that at the front end. But outside of that, I don't like the way he is. And I've said he's a fake. He's not a man on principle. Well, there's a certain ex-influencer that has developed a relationship with Massey, and they communicate. And this certain influencer, who I think is a dirtbag as well, approached Massey in a private message and said, "Hey, Zorro Ranch, Don Huffines owns that. And we need to start, showing these connections." And you know what Thomas Massey told this person? He said, "You're barking up the wrong tree. I'm not touching that." And I'm quoting the influencer. Well, I'll say quasi-quoting. I don't have it right in front of me. But essentially he said, "You're barking up the wrong tree. I'm not going there." Well, hold on. Isn't Massey the self-proclaimed transparency when it comes to the Epstein files? And if that's the case, then Tommy, well, what's going on here? Well, this same person digged into his ex-stepdaddy and realized that Huffines is a huge financial supporter, personally and commercially, to Thomas Massey. A few days ago, Thomas Massey had put out a post saying, "So happy that we've raised a little over $700,000, but we've already spent a little over $1 million. So we're still short about $250,000. And Trump and these guys are coming after me for the elections." So he's not really in a position to lose a very big supporter. Now, again, this is not an insinuation that Huffines did anything bad. My honest opinion here, and I'll land it, I'll give it to you, Josh. I don't think Massey is refusing to question or bring up the conversation of Don Huffines because he thinks that he's implicated. I truly do believe that Massey believes Huffines is a good guy, and I also believe Huffines is a good guy. I believe this is strictly just money. If I go out and do this, I'm going to lose.
I don't, and I'm going to tell you why. Where did Massey go to school?
MIT.
That's right. Remember I was talking about Eric Weinstein's post?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe murders happened there, maybe baby farms too, but it plays the same role to national laboratories, Sandia, Los Alamos. As in, what if Zorro Ranch was being utilized by Jeffrey Epstein as a listening post to intercept scientists coming from Sandia, scientists coming from Los Alamos, bringing them over to the ranch, entertaining them, compromising them, getting them to talk, getting information out, which means that Zorro Ranch becomes a matter of national security. Hence why Massey most likely said, "I'm not going there." Because once that is out of the bag, that's a bigger that is not where they want. That's not where Congress. I'll tell people right now, Congress doesn't want to go there, and the reason it doesn't want to go there because it implicates themselves as well in it. And I'm not saying Massey gets implicated in it, but what I'm trying to say is most likely his thinking is, oh shit, no, not Zorro Ranch, because that was a honeypot for the national laboratories, and now that's a matter of national security, state secrets.
Don't be opening up Pandora's box.
Right, but that I think that is the reason why, and I don't think the person who is talking to him is smart enough to probably realize that. But when I look at that from Massey's perspective, that's how I would be looking at it. Like, I'm not going there. And it has nothing to do with baby farms or satanic rituals. It has everything to do with that was the place the honeypotting operation was being ran for Los Alamos and Sandia, and that he would take those and he would sell it to corporations, commercial industry, big tech, big pharma, and foreign adversaries and foreign friends. And that is a national security nightmare where people like Massey are like, I stay the hell away.
I don't want to swim with the fish,
because that's career ending. Think about it. If he tried to break that, they would ruin him. Those intelligence agencies would drown him.
Yeah, they would legit. I think
legitimately drowned him. The plane crashed and one person died today of the drowning. Like that woman that did Obama's birth certificate in Hawaii. A plane crashes and she dies of drowning. The only person that died. I mean, that would happen because of something like that.
All right, so you let something out of the bag that I was going to say at the end of the show, but you tapped that on it right here. Make sure you guys tune in this Thursday to Overwatch and The Guardian, because we're going to be playing the videos. Josh doesn't even know this because I haven't told him yet. We're going to be playing the videos from the plane crash of the woman that allegedly died from Obama's birth certificate. And we're going to have that conversation. That's one of the things that I wanted to talk about Thursday. And I have the original raw videos that were posted. I sought these things. I found them.
Swimmers in the water.
Don't put it all out there. Like, we got to leave a hook so people can watch the show on Thursday. You can watch that on Josh's channel or my channel on Rumble. But again, regardless how this is playing out, I think it all just benefits Trump, because it still shows that he's the one that's handling this stuff the correct way. So that's my little take on Zorro Ranch and that stuff. The other thing that I want to cover before we end the night and get into the Rumble rants is, let me bring up this post. Ripcord, and Ripcord's been putting out some just consistently good work. I like this account a lot. And and just for the record, there's a lot of people that covered this. Ripcord just happened to be one of the first ones that I seen, but there was a lot of great people that posted this. But he goes, to all the Q doubters, reconcile this. And he shows a picture that Donald Trump posted today on Truth Social. And it's, obviously it's from years ago, and it's President Trump. And you see Jesse Jackson there. But the interesting thing is, if you go to Q posts 3437, it's that same picture.
Mm-hmm.
So President Trump went and used that photo on his truth today, and it's the same one from a Q post 3437. Now I want to bring up 3437 because when you go through, there's a series of photos on that post, and just so you guys know, Jesse Jackson died today. That's one of I have it on a different monitor.
And Robert Duvall.
Yeah, Robert Duvall too. A phenomenal actor. That's one of my favorites. I hope he's not a bad guy. We don't turn out that he was a bad guy. But here's what it says at the bottom of that post. What happens when the controlled are told to create a new false racist narrative, disinformation campaign? Do the sheep follow? Think for yourself. See truth. And I just really thought that was important to the conversation we had tonight.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting too, because the White House yesterday posted a post, and I'll bring this one up because it's direct correlation here, right? Happy President's Day, Trump's world, time, Trump right there. I was the hunted, and now I'm the hunter. Now, interesting enough is when you backtrack this, they posted this they edited it, but the original post was at 8:33. Reality is labeled as a conspiracy. You are made to feel crazy. You are told to obey. You are sheep to them, pawns to be sacrificed. Remember, we are winning. Do not trust what you read. Mind warfare, up is down, left is right, boom, Q. Now, it's interesting that in this post on the timestamp, do not trust what you read, and the original post was Time Magazine. Just keep that in mind because it's a magazine that you read, and then obviously the hunters become the hunted.
And if you can, bring up that post that you saw from Trump tonight that he posted while we're doing the show. I think it was the first, or the last one he posted, or the first one that you showed on your screen. It was the one that said right there. I will be the one to shut it down.
Now, isn't that interesting? Because during earlier in the show, that's what we were saying, is that, look, it needs to be shut down. All this needs to be shut down. So I find that really interesting, but there you go. And you have Pepe over there. People that doubted will soon see. Great clip, friend. I will be the one to shut it down.
Now, just remember that I will be the one to shut it down. Right? Now, go ahead and bring that down so I can bring up today's Delta. There was 39 of them. This is actually the latest Delta, like the last Delta in the series of Deltas here. 3872, February 17th, 2020. To be blunt, game over. If you're shutting it down, doesn't that mean the game's over?
That's right.
I'm just saying, folks, you can write this stuff off and say it's conspiracy, say it's a coincidence. But, kind of like Ripcord said, reconcile that stuff, man. You can't. You can't. The stuff's too damn accurate. Another Delta. I won't bring this one up. I'll read it to you guys, but I found it pretty interesting. It's 3871 for those that want to go and pull it up. But 3871 says, do people believe this attack can happen against the president of the United States and nothing will happen? Moves and counter moves. And I think that has direct correlation and context to the Epstein files.
Mm-hmm.
They really thought that they were going to use this against him, and that boomerang came back. It hit hard, and they still haven't felt the hardest hit from it.
Nope.
And
it's going to get a lot better. This is going to be epic on how all this unfolds. You're not going to believe how this ends.
You're not. So with that, folks, we are going to transition into the Rumble rants. So if you want to get them in right now, now is the time to do it. I'm going to zoom in on them, make them big so we can read them. And let me bring these up on the screen real quick. There we go. And again, we have a large audience tonight. Let me see. As a matter of fact, I think Rumble even still has us on the big screen.
So they got us at number 3 on the big screen, but I find it interesting because I was just looking at that. The one on the big screen is Drew Hernandez. Okay. He's got 6,600 people watching. The second one is Man in America. He's got 1,800 people watching. And then there's DEFCON with 10,000 people watching. So
do us a solid.
Number one show on Tuesday nights on Rumble, baby.
Well, we were there for, I would say, more than 3/4 of the show, because I looked a little while ago and we were there. So shout out on that one. But do us a solid, folks. If you enjoyed the show tonight, hit the thumb, hit the heart, leave a comment. Since this show's inception, you've had it on the leaderboard top 10. I don't think this show's ever been below the top 10. You've done the same thing with Q After Hours. It's always been in the top 20. And just we truly do appreciate that support. But we need to help. You guys need to help us stay in the fight. So please continue to smash that thumb and leave a comment. So I will bring these Rumble rants up on the screen now. And just like Kim K, start from the bottom. Now we're here. $5 from Miller Biz. Fuck the deep state. Dope. Did I say that out loud? Hold on. Going back to my underground tunnel now. You did say that out loud, Miller Biz. At least you typed it out loud. $50 coming in from Barber Lines Matter. Happy Golden Age. Yes, sir.
Thanks.
$20 from Gamma 99 inches. Gamma 9 inches. Gamma 99 inches. Mux. I wish I really knew I was saying that right. God bless you both. I've learned so much to carry on to the next generation in our family. So thank you and God bless. Thank you too, Gamma 99. $5 from the new Prue. Must pray down these anti-patriot strongholds, Congress, Senate, activist judges, grabbing executive power, DOJ leadership, FBI too, elections. Well, hopefully our show tonight provided some insight to that. $10 from Sting Tammy. Patriots, please hit the thumbs up. These guys deserve it. So let's put them in the number 1 slot. I agree. Definitely listen to Sting Tammy on that. $10 coming in from Catalyst, Queen 7. Hit the thumbs up. It doesn't cost anything. It doesn't cost anything, Josh.
And we're sitting at 1,650 likes. So let's get that up to like 6,000 guys.
That's what I'm talking about. $10 from Berkey. Josh, on your show earlier, you said Norway ex-prime minister was arrested. Did you know he is the CEO of the World Economic Forum?
He was. And that's Thornstrom, I think his name is. And so the former prime minister of Norway was arrested, or by it was Norway, was arrested by his government for the Epstein files. Oh yeah, there's more to come on all of this, people.
I wonder what they saw. Very interesting.
I wonder who gave them information on him that brought about an investigation for him to get arrested, because other than that, there was just some collaboration.
$5 from the new Prue. Off topic, but needs a rant. At Dave HQ, reporting Virginia trying to move the goalposts on, or the VA trying to move the goalposts on our disabled veterans. Need to get loud for them. Dave retaining lawyers, and there's the link x.com/Dave HQ or DAV Dav HQ. Dav HQ. So somebody wants to grab that and put in the chat so everybody can go help. $10 coming in from Dior Mita, tipped via Rumble Wallet. Hell yeah.
$10
cool.
in gold.
Gold, baby. That's so awesome. $10 from S Hole. Fuck Bill Miller and his red shoes. There you go, asshole. There you go. $5 from the new Prue. Do you think Q will ever post again?
Not on the boards.
Not on the boards.
But Q's posting every day if you're paying attention.
Dollar for dollar, ZBM. If the Navajo code talkers had to keep their coding secrets for decades, then yeah, the Patriots, a part of Q, definitely aren't going to expose themselves. Simply brag. Just my 2 cents.
Agreed.
Cheers, fellas. Yeah, I like I said, I think there will be enough that for decades, if not millennia, there'll always be like, yeah, you know, it was this. But you know, I would normally say not in our lifetime, but given some of the stuff that Josh has told us about how long our lifetimes may look, maybe in a century or two from now, when our humanity's intelligence has ascended to a point where things like this are no longer a threat. $5 from James Boudoin. 6. Trump's Truth Social post from today at 1:47 p.m. is the same image as Q post 3437. Damn coincidences. Yeah, we just talked about that. So right on, right there with you, James. $10 from Barbara Lines Matter. Every lie owes a debt to the truth, and one day that toll comes due.
Oh yeah, spot on, Nate.
Yeah, you ain't getting past the pearly gates without that. $10 from NC Cheney. If I had the money to bet on Q, I'd possibly lay it on Putin or Melania with decent odds. Two solid picks there. $17 from Ravelin. There's plenty of other stuff that has been going on here in New Mexico for ages too. The ET disclosure community has pointed to Dulce Base and is a very evil locus of genetic experimentations. ETs started it.
I don't disagree.
That sounds like a great conversation for our Thursday show as well.
We can do that, Dulce. Let's talk about it.
Maybe we should even go to New Mexico, bro.
I'm going to interject on that real quick and say we need to have a conversation about that, because honestly, this might not be the one that you want to go to.
I'm tracking.
Because quite literally, people disappear from that.
Gotcha.
But we can have a conversation off about that.
I'm pretty fast. You're like, you ain't running out drones and aliens, bro. As a matter of fact, you ain't outrunning anything. When
Evil baby eating adrenochrome aliens. I'm not doing it. It's just not happening. I'll go into any haunted house you want me to go into. This I probably won't. But maybe you can convince me. Let's go camping in the Dulce over near Dulce.
I really gotta I gotta lean on Josh's discernment here, because the Marine side of me is like, let's just go.
Let's just go camping over in Mesa Verde, and that's over by Dulce, and we can see what happens.
So when Josh tells me, hey, slow down there, cricket, I'm gonna listen. I'm there. $5 from Israel Freedom Fighter. When is the next Just Alpha? It'll probably be Friday. Some stuff happened on Monday, so look for Friday. I'm still going to cover that stuff. Maybe midday Thursday. You guys will know by Wednesday night. After Gladio, I'll let you guys know which day it's going to be. $2 from again James Bedouin 6 Bedouin. Rumble board is being run by Smart. Oh, I love Rumble. Chris is doing great. $5 from Mental Haze. Congrats, DEFCON. Great show. How about Trump doing an EO if the Senate fails on the SAVE Act? He hinted that he's going to do something.
Yep.
He's going to do something. $2 from Keith O'Higgins. Disclaimer, everybody. Happy Fat Tuesday. I'll see you all in 40 days on Good Friday. Only lands. Find peace through sacrifice. And don't give up moral information war. All right. Keith has been behaving lately.
I know.
Kind of makes me uncomfortable.
It's the holy season. No, he just screwed it up. He just put up there, I love fags, even fake fags. So nope, he's
there.
Good job, Keith.
There you go, Keith. Thanks for getting rid of the anxiety. I was starting to think, did they switch out the Keith O'Higgins at the CIA office? we all know Keith's a Fed. Like we know he's. I was like, someone take over his cubicle. Is he on vacation or because they ain't doing it right? Like he's being too proper. But now we know we got Keith back. So
next week we got the State of the Union coming out. So our show will be a few days before the State of the Union, right? The State of the Union's on the 24th or the 26th.
I thought it was the 23rd. So
hold on. Trump's State of the Union address is February 24th. That is next Tuesday. So we'll be going on right after it's ending.
So we're going to be a fire show.
So maybe we should leave everybody tonight with his last State of the Union address before he left office, because this is the one for dreamers.
Oh, all right. Well, with that, let me get in our last ad, and then we can do that. And no Badlands boost came in, so we got everybody covered. So let me get our soft disclosure real quick, and then we'll get that video for you guys. Hold on. Got a lot of assets on the screen that I gotta do. Okay, here we go. Ballas, quick question. Is your beard intentional, or is it just happening to your face? If it's dry, crunchy, or doing whatever it wants, that's not rugged, that's neglect. Soft disclosure beard oil fixes that. A few drops softens the hair, conditions the skin underneath, and takes your beard from chaotic to dialed in. No grease, no overpowering fake scent, just clean ingredients that actually work. And now we've added an upgrade. Our new boar bristle beard brush, engraved with the soft disclosure logo, and ethically imported and finished right here in the good old US of A. Real bristles, real control. It distributes the oil evenly, trains the beard, and makes it look like you meant to grow it that way. And here's the move. When you grab a beard oil, you can add the brush for 25% off. Buy the brush by itself, full price. So do it right. Soft Disclosure Beard Oil and the new boar bristle brush. Visit softdisclosure.com and level up your beard game. Speaking of beards, someone earlier in the show, when you brought up the Hunt for the Red October meme, said, back when Josh had his beard, he looked like Sean Connery. I was like, hey, there you go. It's a solid comment right there from my boy Josh.
I wish I had that Scottish accent, then I could do it very well, but
you probably could. You probably could. Well, before you play this exit video for us, Josh, where can people find you? And then I'll let them know where they can find me.
All right, people. Redpills.tv. REDPILLS.tv on X at Real Joshua Reid, last name spelled REID, on Rumble, Red Pill Project. You can find me over there. And on the website, it's all new, redone. We got to get alphas launching here very soon. But redpills.tv, there's ways to support us. My Give, Send, Go campaign. All of our social media is tied in there. So appreciate you guys. Thank you much. And my Substack that I was talking about earlier is linked up there as well.
100%. AlphaWarrior.tv. We're working on that website, and then search out Rumble, the Alpha Warrior Show, and shout out to you guys over there on YouTube. Like, you guys have been giving me and Josh both a lot of love on our independent channels, and that's very much appreciated. So if you haven't checked out the Rumble channels for me and Josh out there, do us a solid, go and hit the subscribe. It's free. So with that, good night, God bless, and the video is all yours when you're ready, Josh.
All right, let's do it. Rock and roll. Oh, hold on. There we go.
America is a land of heroes, a place where greatness is born, where destinies are forged, and where legends come to life. This is the home of Thomas Edison and Teddy Roosevelt, of many great generals, including Washington, Pershing, Patton, and MacArthur. This is the home of Abraham Lincoln, Frederick Douglass, Amelia Earhart, Harriet Tubman, the Wright brothers, Neil Armstrong, and so many more. This is the country where children learn names like Wyatt Earp, Davy Crockett, and Annie Oakley. This is the place where the Pilgrims landed at Plymouth, and where Texas patriots made their last stand at the Alamo. The American nation was carved out of the vast frontier by the toughest, strongest, fiercest, and most determined men and women ever to walk on the face of the earth. Our ancestors braved the unknown, tamed the wilderness, settled the Wild West, lifted millions from poverty, disease, and hunger, vanquished tyranny and fascism, ushered the world to new heights of science and medicine, laid down the railroads, dug out the canals, raised up the skyscrapers. Our ancestors built the most exceptional republic ever to exist in all of human history, and we are making it greater than ever before. This is our glorious and magnificent inheritance. We are Americans. We are pioneers. We are the pathfinders. We settled the new world. We built the modern world. And we change history forever by embracing the eternal truth that everyone is made equal by the hand of Almighty God. America is the place where anything can happen. America is the place where anyone can rise. And here, on this land, on this soil, on this continent, the most incredible dreams come true. This nation is our canvas, and this country is our masterpiece. We look at tomorrow and see unlimited frontiers just waiting to be explored. Our brightest discoveries are not yet known. Our most thrilling stories are not yet told. Our grandest journeys are not yet made. The American age, the American epic, the American adventure has only just begun. Our spirit is still young. The sun is still rising. God's grace is still shining. And my fellow Americans, the best is yet to come.
Thank you.